And let's go! A Wednesday edition of the show, all across the country on SportsMap Radio, worldwide, the SportsMap Radio app. We got a busy 3 hours ahead as always. See, I'm telling you, it's just not right. I invest myself into the Knicks Hornets game tonight on NBA, on the NBA app, whatever it's called. It's an app that has NBA games and the NBA owns it. And literally 2 minutes before airtime, the Knicks have the Hornets have the last possession. The game's tied, like 122 apiece. And what happens? Game goes to overtime. So now I can't really watch it because I got to do this thing called a radio show. It's not right. John Belmer is our producer engineer tonight, working things out of Houston. Nick Ferguson will join us in this first hour of the show coming up, former NFL safety, host of the Touchdown Denver podcast, a regular if you listen to this program. We'll get some thoughts with him. I wish the NFL trade deadline was like 2 weeks later. Why the arbitrary number of after week 7? Why, what? Because it's the halfway point of the season, basically? Like, I don't get it. Like, baseball has it when 2/3 of the season is done. Why can't the NFL do that? You'd have so much more wheeling and dealing because you have teams that, kind of figure out that they're out of contention or not a threat to win anything, and they would trade guys. You'd have such a much more active trade deadline. And don't get me wrong, it's been fairly busy. We had the McCaffrey deal last week, and that was fine. But it would be so much better if they just pushed it back another 2 weeks. Do it right before week 10. That's still plenty of time. That's 7 weeks before the season ends. Why? Why now? We're not there yet. We'll get into Aaron Rodgers in a couple of minutes. NBA live betting later in this hour, too. I'm Jason Page. Good to have you with us. The Cash In on SportsMap Radio. Let's go. All right, it gives me a minute to watch the Knicks game. Somebody just get a technical? Who gets a technical in overtime in a 1-point game? Are you watching it? Oh, okay. I think the coach, Steve Clifford. Knicks up 2 with 2:38 left, looking to go to 3-1. Let's go. Jalen Brunson hitting big buckets late. When your team's good early on, it's never too early. When your team sucks early on, then there's plenty of time. Come on, Brunson. Let's go. Oh, great pass. Brunson, baby. Brunson, let me tell you, if the Knicks go anywhere this year, it will be because of that acquisition. Oh, the kid's got game. He's got the right demeanor for New York, too. Very even-keeled. Yeah, and his dad played there, too. So, he kind of knows it. Do 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 do. Hornets are shorthanded. No LaMelo, no Rozier. Yeah. And Clifford's got them 2-1 to start the season. And Julius Randle in ISO situations is enough to make me hurl. And that's all he does. He's an ISO player. Oy vey. Come in. Come in. Rolling along, first hour of the show. There's a telephone number if you want to be part of it. It's 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. Tweet at the show. Please tweet at me. At the back page. Again, on Twitter, at the back page. Hold on, let me mute the Nick game that's on in the background. Would that be wrong? Can we do that legally, or would we get in trouble for that? Yeah, if we had the audio on. I mean, on the video feed of the show, I have it just perfect where you could tell there's a game going on, but you can't tell which game is going on. Like, I've got it down to a science with the way I have the video in the background. So I don't ever get in any trouble by any of the video streaming companies that I air the show through. I got to admit, I'm pretty proud of myself. I've done a nice job with what I have to work with while we try to get into our permanent studios. I got to be honest, I hate working from home. God, I hate it. It's not the distractions. My partner's in Arizona on a work trip. It's just me and the dog. But it's not. I've spent my whole career in a radio or TV studio. This work from home thing might work for some people. It just doesn't work for me. Got to be honest about, you got to know who you are. It's just not for me. I don't know. Maybe for some people it works. Coming up in 12 minutes, the NBA Tonight live betting. We'll get into some of what's going on there. Get you into some of the games that are going on as we speak. The big one tonight, Lakers and the Nuggets. Is LeBron playing? Do we know? Does it? You know what? And better yet, does it really matter? I'm not quite sure it does. Yeah, Greg Jennings has never been one that's shy about digging into Aaron Rodgers when he says or does something stupid. So I'm not incredibly surprised that Jennings took liberty with the way Rodgers conducted himself post-game press conference and then yesterday with Pat McAfee in his weekly fluff spot. Let's be honest. That's what it is. It's a fluff spot. Let's see if we can, get Aaron to laugh a little. He'll make some jokes, whether they're funny or not. We'll laugh at them. I mean, that's what those Aaron Rodgers appearances are on Pat McAfee. And hey, kudos to Pat. He's got AJ Hawk on the show, so he's buddy with Aaron, and they can get him on. If I could have Aaron Rodgers on, I don't even like Aaron Rodgers, and if I could have Aaron Rodgers on the show every week, I'd put Aaron Rodgers on the show every week. So, I mean, I'm not begrudging that. But if you're going to have him on, ask him some tough questions. Take him to task once in a while. But he's not going to do that, and that's the only reason Aaron's going to go on there every week. It's that soft landing spot. Greg Jennings on Fox Sports today, The Carton Show. Wasn't Craig Carton in jail like 5 minutes ago? No, he really was. He really was. Well, he's out of jail, and he's got like a zillion shows now. Because we are a forgiving society. So here is Greg Jennings on Aaron Rodgers and the way he's been conducting himself. Listen in.
Well, what I don't like about it is you can't talk about we had too many mental errors and then start saying guys should be getting reps cut, because that excludes you. You're not talking about yourself any longer. And we understand this. Like, guys are going to have missed assignments and mental errors. The amount of missed assignments and mental errors, it has never been a high number in Green Bay. That's just not, it's not accepted. It's not something that we do. But Aaron, you can't do this.
No.
You can't sit on a forum like the Pat McAfee show, and I love Pat doing an unbelievable job. Mm-hmm. But you can't just vent about everything that's wrong in the locker room, on the field, and not talk about your lack of production. Like, you have to go out front before you pull everybody out in front of you to guard what your performance has looked like. He hasn't been, I would not have a problem if he's calling out his teammates and he's been playing lights out.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But he has not.
No.
And that's the part that rubs people the wrong way. It's like, you can't act as though your game has just been last year MVP level.
Thank you. Exactly what I said on the show and what I have said on the show repeatedly. But now you're getting it from a former teammate of Aaron Rodgers. He's just been flat out ordinary. I mean, 11 touchdowns through the first 7 games. 1,600 yards, meh. 67% completion percentage. Quarterback rating, 94. It's just been very ordinary. 11 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Okay. Not turning it over a ton, but not putting it in the end zone a ton either. And if you're going to point the finger at other guys, you've got to be willing to handle it being pointed at you as well. And he has the softest, most fragile ego of just about any superstar in the NFL. Aaron Rodgers can't take the criticism. And that's been a theme throughout his career. Relax. RELAX. And then Aaron says today, he doubled down basically on the idea of the fact that, what he said. He stands by his comments. So Rodgers says, no, there's nothing wrong with what I said on Pat McAfee and, calling out teammates, saying guys' reps should be cut. He says that's no issue at all. And then he tries to validate what he said by suggesting, well, nobody on the team has come up to me and said anything. Nobody's raised an issue with me saying this. That's like worldwide propaganda. Like that's Al-Qaeda propaganda. That's Russia, that's China propaganda. Like that's at that level. You are the straw that stirs the drink in Green Bay. Do you think Alan Lazard is going to call you out? Do you think Randall Cobb, even at this stage of his career, is going to call you out? You think one of the myriad of youthful receivers on the Green Bay Packers is going to call you out? You're Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, Christian Watson's going to get up and say, you know what? I don't think it's fair that Aaron Rodgers calls us out. Romeo Doubs is going to stand up and say, yeah, you know what? I don't think it's right that he took a shot at us. Those guys would be gone so fast their heads would spin. So the idea that nobody's called you out, I'm going to tell you, you know what I can't wait for? And the day's going to come relatively soon because he's almost done in Green Bay. You can count on it. He's almost done there. He's playing and talking his way out of that situation. Count on it. And he'll blame everybody else on his way out the door. But when he's gone, I can't wait to see the stories that emerge about the monster that Aaron Rodgers was over the last couple of years in that organization. Because I can tell you right now, they're coming. There's going to be so much written and said. Mark the day down, Belmer, that I said this. October 26, 2022. Wait till you hear the stories about the kind of guy Aaron Rodgers is. I've told this story before. I was once, I don't know if I've told it for this audience, so I'll share it. I was once having lunch. This is when I was doing sports radio in the Bay Area. I was having lunch. This is when I was working at 95.7 The Game with a fellow co-host of mine. Will not say the person's name, but it's somebody that knows Aaron very well, to the point that he was literally texting with Aaron. The two of them were texting. This is literally about 10 years ago. Mike McCarthy was still the head coach. You get it. And it was pretty widely, well, I don't know how widely known it was at this point that Rodgers, by the time they were done playing and coaching with each other, it was pretty well known that Aaron wasn't very fond of Mike McCarthy. But it wasn't at this point in time. And I was sitting with this person that knows Aaron. And we're literally sitting there, and he goes, "Oh, Aaron just sent me this." And it literally was a text message from Aaron Rodgers saying, "Mike McCarthy's the biggest dumb bleep that I've ever seen in my life." I mean, that was literally like the text that is said. I'm paraphrasing, but basically the gist of the text was Mike McCarthy couldn't coach his way out of a paper bag. This is the kind of guy Aaron Rodgers is. Plain and simple. Hand to God, I would quit the show tomorrow if I was lying about this. This is who he is. You've seen everything at this point. There's an old Maya Angelou saying, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. This is who Aaron Rodgers is. Everybody likes to talk about the fact that Aaron Rodgers only won one Super Bowl, because of Mike McCarthy or Matt LaFleur or whatever head coach you want to throw under the bus. Maybe at some point we need to acknowledge some of it's going on Aaron Rodgers too. Sometimes it's more than just putting up the numbers and making great passes. Sometimes it's about leadership. Sometimes it's about what kind of leader of men are you. And quarterbacks in the NFL are the next closest thing to head coaches. They are leaders. They are captains. They are people who set the beat. And when you start to realize who Aaron Rodgers is it any surprise the guy's only got one Super Bowl for all the oodles of talent that he has? 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. Hit me up on Twitter at The Back Page. We'll come back, get into the NBA. The night around the league, betting-wise, live betting. Oh, betting. I'm Jason Page. It's the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. That's a very true story I told, by the way. Yes. Yeah, I was sitting. This game still isn't over. No. Knicks are up 134-131 with 4 seconds left. Oh! Oh, no, they called timeout. So they called timeout? Oh, it was a foul. I don't know. I gotta get one. Yeah. I gotta go buy one. I'm waiting to get my. We've got a new sponsor coming on. Show integration, so to speak. Hopefully, it'll start next week. That's okay. We won't. Oh, Belmer. Oh, Belmer. Wow. John Belmer introducing me as Anthony Pepe. Poor Anthony. I don't know who it's more of an insult to, him or me. Oh, man. No, it's not the diehards. It's Jason Page. This is not college radio. It's the cash-in. Yes, we're a nationally syndicated sports radio show. And no, really, we're a professional outfit, I promise you. I'm going to just roll the bus back and forth over Belmer until he's just about 4 feet tall. Just hope Craig Larson wasn't listening. You don't want middle management coming after you. I'm Jason Page. Welcome to the Cash in SportsMap Radio and the SportsMap Radio app. Nick Ferguson will join us, former NFL safety, a regular on our show, friend of the show, legitimately a friend of the show, host of the Touchdown Denver podcast. He's going to stop by. I'm not picking my nose for anybody watching the video stream. I have an itch, and I'm just trying to get to it the best I can. So if it looks like I'm just rubbing my nose like crazy, it's not like an OCD thing, not like a nervous tick. I just got such an itch in my nose, and I can't get to it. Knicks win tonight. They beat the Charlotte Hornets 134-131 in overtime. The Knicks are 3-1. And as I was saying to John Belmer, our intrepid producer-engineer who plays the wrong show rejoins, as I was saying to him, not letting this go, as I was saying to him before we came on the air, it might have been during one of the early breaks, it's one of those things where when you're, I'm a Knicks fan, I'm a New Yorker, and even though I live now in Palm Springs, California, I was born and raised a New Yorker, and when you're a fan of a team, and your team stinks, well, it's early. 0-2, 1-3. It's early in the season. Who cares? There's tons of time. There's always tons of time when your team stinks early in the year. But when your team's 3-1, oh, you're all over it. You're invested now. You're 3-1. It's like, whoa, NBA Finals, here we come. Jalen Brunson has been really good for the Knicks in the early going. And if they are to do anything this year beyond being, maybe in the mix for a play-in, for the play-in tournament, he is going to have to be really good. And tonight, I saw a guy that can lead that offense. They got to figure out a way to get, ISO Julius Randle out of that mode. But Knicks win tonight. Beat a shorthanded Hornets team. A win is a win in the NBA. 134-131 in overtime. We love doing the live betting on the show every night. If you listen to us, we'll give you live betting advice. If you had listened to us last night, we told you midway through the second quarter of the Warriors-Suns game, when the line total was set at 240.5, what did we tell you? Take the under. We told you that midway through the second quarter. What'd the number end at? 239. We got it by 1.5. So you want to stick with us tonight because I'm sure during the late game, and actually those late games are underway. We'll give you an update on what's going on in them. You'll want to tune into this show because we're usually spot on when it comes to the live lines, especially in the NBA. So you'll want to stick around for that. Bulls lead the Pacers 120-107. That game about to go final. There's about a minute left. So Chicago's going to get a win. Utah's on the verge of winning again. Didn't they just play the Rockets and lose to them the other night? Belmer? Didn't they? Okay. All right, so a home and home, I guess. Utah leads Houston 74-58, 7:48 to go third quarter. Oh, Belmer, it ain't over yet. Third quarter in the NBA? I mean, come on. Till there's 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter, it's not even really a game worth talking about. Utah leads 74-58 as they continue their good start to the season. Heat and Blazers just underway. 3:20 to go first quarter. Portland leads Miami 22-14. Lakers trying to get a win tonight. They'll take it if they can get it. I think they're 0-3. Lakers in Denver tonight. 19-18 Denver in that game as they play. 3:18 to go in the opening quarter. On the live betting there, that's the game we'll focus on tonight because we'll have it on in the background here. Plus 158 for the Lakers on the money line right now. Denver minus 205. Lakers plus 4.5. And the total is 225.5. You might have heard Kurt Heelan mention it last night. The Lakers have actually been surprisingly good. The Lakers have been surprisingly good defensively. Going into yesterday, and again, it's early in the season. These are small sample sizes. You can't go crazy. But the Lakers have been top 5 defense in the league over the first few games. Now, again, they're having trouble shooting, and that's obviously going to be a big problem for them as we go throughout this season. And if they are to do anything worthwhile, they're going to have to get better shooting. I think we all know that, and that might mean making a trade and going and trying to acquire a shooter who may wind up being available. I don't think they could afford to wait until the trade deadline. I think they're going to have to do something relatively soon. Otherwise, they could wind up too far back in the rearview mirror for it to really mean anything by the time they do get a shooter. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. You could tweet at the show if you want to, at the back page. Hit me up on Twitter throughout the show, at the back page. Nick Ferguson coming up in a couple minutes. We'll get some thoughts with him around the NFL. I wonder, and I'm going to ask Nick about this, if we could be talking about the Broncos as sellers at the trade deadline. I mean, it would have seemed insane to think that the Broncos, who went and spent $250 million on Russell Wilson. It's the brain injury, sorry. If you're talking about a Broncos team that spent $250 million on Russell Wilson, you don't think that when we get to week 8, they're going to be a seller. But here they are right now at this stage of the season at 2-5. Now, if they lose this week, now we know that I think they played Jacksonville, if I'm not mistaken. We're going to go through the NFL lines later in the show. One of my favorite things we do. A little over an hour from now, we'll go through the week 8 NFL lines. So Denver is home for Jacksonville. If you lose that game and you're 2-6, do Jerry Jeudy and Bradley Chubb all of a sudden become trade bait? Are you dealing those guys and trying to stockpile some draft picks? Because at that point, at 2-6, even if you want to say, mediocrity is abound in the league, now you go look around and start trying to figure out what the odds are of making the playoffs. Problem is, they're in a division where Kansas City's 5-2 and the Chargers are 4-3. If you're 2-6 after this week, I mean, I think you have to kind of mail it in on the season if you can get some value for those guys at the trade deadline. I want to ask Nick Ferguson about that when he joins us coming up here in just a couple of minutes. Get into it with him, see what he thinks. All right, stick around. Nick Ferguson on the other side, former NFL safety, host of the Touchdown Denver podcast. I'm Jason Page. Glad you're hanging out with us. It is the cash in, I promise you, and it's on SportsMap Radio. How did that happen? How does that even happen? Yeah. It's all right. If that's the worst thing you do, it's been a good day. No lives were lost. No, it's going to be live. Nick Ferguson. We welcome you back on this Tuesday edition of the show. The phone number, as always, 1. Welcome me back. Wednesday edition of the show. Could always be part of it. 800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. Tweet at us at the back page. Oh, man. So lucky to live in a place like Palm Springs. Our guest lives in Denver, or in the Denver area anyway. He is a former NFL safety, host of the Touchdown Denver podcast. He is a friend, a legitimate friend of the program, and a guy that I kind of feel bad for because he's going to get snow where he lives, and I'll never see snow as long as I live in Palm Springs. It's Nick Ferguson who joins us on the show tonight. Hi, Nick.
Hey, man, what's going on?
Just rubbing little salt in the wounds that you have to deal with stuff. Let me ask you, do you shovel your own driveway, or does somebody come and do it for you?
Me, man, my mom and my dad would be so upset with me if I had someone to shovel my driveway. No, that's why I have kids.
You know what? When I was a little kid, I grew up in Connecticut. My dad, there were 4 of us, but I was the youngest. And my dad, we had the longest driveway. We lived on this private road, and there was like 4 houses on the street, and we had to shovel this long driveway. I want to say easily 140 feet long. And
first of all, wait. Obviously, with you saying that you shoveled some snow, I'm sure over the years, this driveway has gotten longer and longer and longer. So are you over-exaggerating the length of this driveway just to tell the story?
It's actually gotten shorter over the years because we changed the route of our driveway as we got older. But that's not the point. When I was a kid, though, we would just be out there forever, and we'd look in the window, big bay window in the front of our raised ranch, and I would see my dad just sitting with a cup of coffee in his hand, looking out the window at us while we were outside shoveling. Brutal.
Yes, man. Listen, I lived in California for 4 years, and I remember my kids telling me, "Hey, listen, Dad. Okay, we've had enough of California. We want to move to a place where the seasons change and it snows." Of course, opportunity provides itself. I come back to Denver, so that's why every time it snows, I wake them up like, "Hey guys, remember you said you want to come back out here for snow? Then here it is, right? Get out there and start shoveling." Yes.
Nah, that stuff's and see, you're about the same age as me. I'm 45, right? So you're about the same age as me.
Yeah.
And see, for me, the arthritis, like if I go to Seattle to visit a friend, and if I go for like 4 days, by day 2, I'm in just agony because I've got all these arthritic pains. Yeah, no, seriously. So I live in a place like Palm Springs where there's nice dry heat. You know, even when it's 120, it's a dry 120. And 8 months a year, it's paradise. It's absolute paradise. We're going to have to get you down here. We're going to have to get you and the wife. We're going to have to get you and the wife down here. But leave the kids at home. It's not a very kid-friendly city.
It doesn't sound like it now.
Nope, not a very kid-friendly city. All right, so tell me something. Am I crazy to think that if the Broncos lose this week at home to the Jaguars, and even if they win, but I mean they're 2-5 now. Let's see, they're either 3-5 or 2-6. Are Bradley Chubb and Jerry Jeudy going to be on the move somewhere?
There's a strong possibility because that is somewhat of the rumors, but we know how the rumor mill works. People talk about it, but sometimes it doesn't always take place. But when you look at which guy who the Broncos could move, obviously all the roads point to Bradley Chubb, and here's why. You know, you look at Bradley Chubb's 50-year option. That hasn't really been picked up under GM George Payton. George Payton's been here 2 years, so he's been able to look at, you know, what Bradley Chubb has done for 2 years. But also they're thinking as though they may not be able to sign him. So instead of running the risk of holding on to a guy who has value, and that's what it boils down to at the end of the day, is looking at the Broncos roster and say, well, which guys can we move that currently has value? He is one of those guys that has value. This is kind of reminiscent of what happened last season with Von Miller. Von Miller still had some value. Some people locally thought that he was done, but obviously he's not. So if you have an opportunity to move Bradley and you can acquire some draft picks now, if Broncos fans are thinking that George Payton can dangle Bradley Chubb out there and get a first-round draft pick, that's not how this works. It's basically like, you know, buying a car. Like, let's just say you buy a car, it's worth $50,000 when it's on the car lot. By the time you get it down to the corner to turn the stop sign, at the stop sign, it's worth $35,000. So there's a lot of depreciation on those tires and the wheels for Bradley Chubb. So if you can get a second and a fourth, you definitely take it. But now when it comes to Jerry Jeudy, now that's a little different for me. Because when you look at the Broncos offense, they have definitely been struggling with Jerry Jeudy in the lineup. And I think that has to do a lot with the play calling. We've talked about that previously. But if Russell needs options at wide receiver to throw to, and you take a guy out of the mix who still has 2 years on his contract where you don't have to pay him because he's still on a rookie deal and you don't have Tim Patrick. It leaves you with a bunch of wide receivers that are not viable options at this point. So now you take Russell, who has been struggling in this system, and now you not only tie one hand behind his back, you tie the other hand behind his back. So how much does that make sense? So to me, if there's two people you want to trade, it's Bradley Chubb. He has the most value. Another guy is Albert Okwuegbunam because he's been inactive for the past 2 weeks. And, by all signs, he's not sitting too well with the coaches right now as far as how they value him as a player.
Spending some time with Nick Ferguson, host of the Touchdown Denver podcast. Over in the UK this weekend, it's the Jaguars and the Denver Broncos. There's also talk that Nathaniel Hackett is coaching for his job. Fair? Unfair? Is it a panic move? We see how often does a midseason coaching change really resolve anything? I mean, I know last year it was kind of a necessity with the Raiders because of the John Gruden situation, and their interim coach was able to get him into the playoffs. What do you make of the talk of Nathaniel Hackett potentially being out of work?
Well, that happens a lot when you find yourself in a situation that he's in right now, because he was a guy that the fan base thought, okay, you coach with Aaron Rodgers, and you look at Aaron Rodgers, 3 MVPs, missed the playoffs. Well, not missed the playoffs, but just kind of lost in the playoffs and didn't go deep. But the idea was that he was going to come in and he's going to change the offense. Everyone was upset about what they had been seeing over the past couple of years under Pat Shurmur. So it's like, hey, bring a new guy. He's going to come in. He's fiery. He's a great guy to be around. He's great at the podium. Things are going to change. Oh, by the way, you bring in Russell Wilson. Yeah, it's Super Bowl. And I'm like, no, pump the brakes, because things like that don't really happen as quickly as most people think, because you think that you're getting a quarterback who may be Super Bowl worthy or Hall of Fame worthy. It's just going to change things around. I say, look what's happening in Tampa Bay. Look what's taking place in Green Bay with the same quarterback that's with the same system. He's too and struggling just like Russell Wilson, and he's been in that system. Jason, he's been in that LaFleur system for a long period of time, and Aaron Rodgers, the MVP, he is struggling. Look at Matt Ryan. He was just benched and with the Colts. So when we look at the situation, it's just like, look, I know the idea is you want to give it more time or whatever, but in Mike Shanahan used to say, head coaches are hired to be fired, because at some point, when things are not going the way that fans want them to go or anticipate, their voices are going to get really loud, and then next thing you know, they're going to start talking about being fired. Now, here's what we do know. We've seen teams in this situation take the trip across the pond, but sometimes when they're coming back, usually that's when the final nail is put in the coffin. Now we're waiting to see if that happens with Nathaniel Hackett, but at this point, he can't really think about that. He's got to go out there and show a certain level of improvement with his team. And then if you do fire a head coach, which most fans here in Broncos country want him to be fired, the first thing I say to them is, where do you go from here? Who's going to be the interim head coach? Probably Azure Evero, but then what other coach are you going to go get? Well, let's go get Sean Payton. How do you know Sean Payton wants to come here? Right? You don't know that. So once again, it's about trying to win this game and move forward, but firing coach mid-season, what exactly does that change with the team, or what does that say with the other players in the locker room? But more importantly, the Broncos made a hefty investment in Russell Wilson. What does that say to him as a quarterback, right? You were brought here to work well within that system, not a system that's based on your skill set, but what type of message would that send? So things look really muddy for the Broncos, ownership, George Payton, Russell Wilson, and Nathaniel Hackett. So I don't envy any of those guys right now.
It's crazy to think, and I know this is so simplistic, and it's fan speak, and this is the way we think sometimes. But you wonder if in Week 1 against Seattle, if a different play call is made and they win that game, does this thing look different than it looks right now? That it set this tone and sort of set the snowball going down the hill, and they just can't stop it at this point.
Well, there's one way to stop it, right? I mean, it's win a game. And that seems to be the secret serum for any team, and I don't care what league that you play, all you have to do is win one game. That someone takes the heat off, right? And that doesn't take it off permanently, so it takes the oven from being preheated at 375. Now it takes it down to 225, but the heat is still there because now it's like, okay, you won that game, now let's win another one. And it'll be perfect for the Broncos to win this game in the UK, fly back, celebrate as a team, build that camaraderie, go into your bye week knowing as though you're going to come out of the bye week facing Tennessee, then you face the Raiders, then you face the Baltimore Ravens. So the second half of the season is something that the Broncos should be looking at. And once again, I go back to this, Jason. You look at the standings in the league. You know, some teams have kind of started to filter out as far as what the playoff picture could look like. But when you look at the remaining teams in the league, teams are still close about 1 or 2 games. And things can change. A guy get injured, a guy gets traded, then it can change the complexity of the team. So all they need to do is go out there and win on Sunday. And for maybe a week, it takes a little of the heat off.
And you know what? Otherwise, Nathaniel Hackett better have some flippers and some goggles because he'll be swimming back to the U.S. Talking with Nick Ferguson, Touchdown Denver podcast joins us here on the show. I got a minute or so left, maybe 90 seconds here. If you're somebody on the Green Bay Packers and you hear your star quarterback basically call out everybody except himself, if you don't have a ton of cachet, because there's been this story today, Aaron Rodgers is like, well, nobody's approached me. Well, of course nobody's going to approach you. You're Aaron Rodgers. If you're in that situation as a player, do you say something to Aaron Rodgers?
You got doing right. I mean, look, don't walk around like your stuff don't stink. I mean, listen, we may be making mistakes, and I get that, right? But you're making mistakes too. Listen, I've seen a lot of quarterbacks in this league, premier quarterbacks, who have that type of mentality because the league has fucked these guys up on a high pedestal where maybe some other coaches and players are afraid to go to them and say, hey, listen, man, we're a team. You're not above the team. I don't care if they say that the quarterback is the most important player. I'm not going to stand here as a grown man and allow you to talk to me in that particular way. Now, if you want to come to me and we can resolve this by sitting down, trying to get on the same page, well, we're not going to do that. I don't call you out in the meeting just because you are Aaron Rodgers, you know, 3-time MVP or whatever. You don't get an opportunity to say what you want to say, and I can't say what I want to say. So what we have to understand as a team, the Green Bay Packers, we need to do everything we need to do to get better. You haven't made a couple of your throws. You don't see me tossing you under the bus. But the reason you don't, because sometimes these premier quarterbacks, they get a pass. They get a pass to say whatever they want to say about everyone else, but they don't look at their own play and criticize their own play. They don't do that.
Nope.
So if I'm on that team and you calling me out, and I think that you're calling me out, guess what? I'm going to reverse the flow and call you out too as well. How about that?
Nick Ferguson, former NFL safety, Touchdown Denver podcast. Check it out. I have. It's good. Thank you, my friend. We'll talk soon.
All right, man. Enjoy that Palm Springs weather.
You know I will, and don't hurt your back shoveling that snow.
No, I won't. That's once again. That's what I have kids for.
I got it. We'll come back and wrap up the hour next. Thanks, man. Always appreciate it. Yes, you have come to the right place. We are the Cash In. SportsMap Radio and the SportsMap Radio app. Thank you to Nick Ferguson for stopping by the show. Might be a former NFL safety. He'll always be a Hartford Colonial to me. You have to go look up who the Hartford Colonials are in order to understand that joke. Bit of an inside joke. Hour 2 of the show right around the corner. The Patriots make a decision regarding their quarterback, at least for week 8. We'll get into that. A former Hall of Fame, well, a current Hall of Famer, but a former NFL quarterback, had some interesting thoughts on Tom Brady. And an article in one of these entertainment rags, once again, suggesting something that could very well lead to Tom Brady not making it through the season in Tampa Bay. And I will insist that I don't think he's going to wind up coaching as quarterback for the entire season. I think he's going to retire. I have been firm in that, and I will stick to it. NFL Week 8 early line checks. We will do that. Denver leads the Lakers 42-39. We're keeping tabs on that, our betting game of the night on the show, as far as live betting is concerned. I'll make some prognostications coming up in a few minutes on that. LeBron's playing tonight. Do the Lakers get their first win? I don't know if I'd go that far. We're back with another hour of the Cash In. Stay with us. SportsMap Radio on the SportsMap Radio app. I'll do, yeah, and I can handle it on this end because it's just easier for me for the video. Yeah, so I'll just do it on this end. That's why I kind of do it self-contained. Don't mention anything else. Another hour starts right now. SportsMap Radio and the SportsMap Radio app. Glad you're with us. By the way, aside from listening to the show on SportsMap Radio and the SportsMap Radio app, you can also watch us. Twitch.tv. The name of my channel is Jason Page 77. The 77 is the year I'm born, before you ask. Also on Facebook, the Decibel 88 channel. Also on YouTube, the Decibel 88 channel. As well as on Twitter, on my Twitter feed at the back page. So there's no excuse. I mean, if you're not listening, you should be watching. If you're not watching, you should be listening. Simple as that. In this hour of the program, coming up in about 33 minutes, our NFL Week 8 early line checks. I love going through each and every game and kind of giving you a feel for where I am on certain games. We'll do that coming up in about 33 minutes. Coming up in 18 minutes, the Patriots' plans for the quarterback position in Week 8 against the Jets in really what's basically become a must-win for them. We'll let you know what's going on there. And a former Patriot quarterback in Tom Brady, obviously having struggles, and a couple of different items concerning him. One with Kurt Warner weighing in on what he thinks is the problem with Tom Brady, and then a subsequent story which may very well tie into the first story about Brady. So you'll just have to stick around and get that. Right now, we're keeping an eye on the NBA. I said I would do some live betting fun for you guys. Denver and the Lakers, because I am just a live betting wizard, let's be honest. Denver 51, the Lakers 45, a minute 29 to go, second quarter. The total in this game is set to 225.5 on the live betting right now. I would bang the under on that. 51-45, a minute 30 to go, second quarter. The official bet, the official live bet tonight from the cash-in, under 225.5, under 222.5. Hit it now. Under 222.5 on the Lakers and Nuggets on the live betting. We'll see how we do later on. We'll come back. More to do on the cash-in. SportsMap Radio. I almost went Walt Disney there and froze. I'm like, So is tomorrow Brian? Is that what you said? Yeah. Why? Okay. I've started looking at other potential executive producers for the show. Well, I started talking to somebody. I don't want to say who he is, but I started talking to somebody. He actually works on the Tom Brady podcast. Yeah. Yeah, he's a former colleague of mine. So I've started feeling him out to see if he's interested. The problem is he's on the East Coast. And getting somebody to work on the show who's on the East Coast, it's tough because it's 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. Oh, he's got a great setup. He's got a full broadcast setup. Yeah. And he's strong. I know he can get like really good guests and stuff like that. He's got great contacts. Nobody on the team has come after me for calling out. This is Aaron Rodgers. Nobody on the team has come out after me for calling out the team and saying reps should be cut. That, you know what that reminds me of? It's like Brittany Griner. If somebody put a microphone in front of her inside a Russian jail right now, and they were like, hey, Brittany, how are they treating you here? You know what she's going to say? Everything's great. Humane. The Russians, they've been very nice to me. I get 3 squares every day. I get to write letters, painting my nails. Life is great. Let me tell you something. The second Brittany Griner gets back to the U.S., which hopefully will be soon, when she does, you're going to hear horror stories of what it was like for her inside of a Russian prison. Aaron Rodgers is the same thing right now. He's like, well, everybody's, nobody's upset. Nobody's going to say they're upset because you're Aaron Rodgers, you fool. Boy, for a guy who proclaims to be so smart and smarter than everybody else, he must think we're all a bunch of dummies. We don't know what we're talking about. Smartest guy in the room syndrome. And let me tell you something. I know from experience, nobody likes the smartest guy in the room. I'm telling you, the stories we're going to get when he is out of Green Bay, I can't wait. Be sitting there with a bowl of popcorn. Coming up in about 10 minutes. We'll get into a couple of quarterback stories, one involving the current Patriots starting quarterback, the other involving a former Patriots starting quarterback. We'll do our Week 8 early lines in 25 minutes. Line check. We'll have that coming up. By the way, now tied at the half, 54-54 Lakers and Nuggets. Just remember, 222.5, the under. We told you to take it. Eventually, I was listening to something today. Brady Quinn, former NFL quarterback for about 5 minutes, former Notre Dame Fighting Irish quarterback. And he said something really interesting regarding NIL. And you had this story about Texas A&M suspending 3 true freshmen indefinitely for smoking weed in the locker room before the team lost to South Carolina. And this is the quote from Brady Quinn, and then I'll tell you why I'm mentioning it. NIL played a role, there's no doubt about it. If you're walking into a team and you're already getting paid, there's a sense of entitlement to the fact that I don't need to earn my spot. My spot has been given to me because of what I'm being paid. Because doing that act anywhere before you've really made an impact on a team, it's reckless, it's ignorant, there's so many things with it, it's showing entitlement. These young men don't feel like they need to earn it anymore. And that's a really tough position, I think, for any coach to be in. Quinn says, I know young people are going to make mistakes, but this is one that I think is in part born out of the entitlement that comes with NIL. He could not be more correct. 100%. Spot on. NIL is going to be a nightmare. College coaches that stay in college, you know why a lot of them stay in college all this time? Everybody always says, why doesn't so-and-so go coach in the NFL? Or why doesn't so-and-so go coach in the NBA? You hear this all the time. Why did John Calipari could have been a successful NBA head coach? Rick Pitino could have been a successful NBA coach. You know why they left? The egos, the players, the fact that your players can exert more control than you can. By the way, I attributed a quote to John Calipari that should have been attributed to Rick Pitino the other night when I said Kevin McHale's not walking through that door. It was Rick Pitino, not John Calipari. Just want to correct the record on that because I'm about being accurate. But there's a reason a lot of great college coaches never go into the professional ranks. And it's really simple. The egos. And egos are built largely with money and the fame and everything that comes with being a professional athlete. On the collegiate level for all these years, even for all the relative fame that a lot of guys would have to deal with, the one thing that they didn't have at the collegiate level, at least for the most part, because we all know there's some guys who've been getting money, for many years. Guys have been getting paid off at the collegiate level. Families get this and that, boosters, hand a paycheck to some, hand a check on the side to somebody. But in general, a lot of these great college athletes, they were just student athletes. Well, now they're basically paid players. Now it really is a minor league system, a feeder system for the NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball, what have you. And these guys are going to get paid. And with that is going to come a litany of headaches that college coaches choose not to coach in the major league sports for that reason. Now they're going to have to deal with it on the collegiate level because you are going to have that sense of entitlement. And by the way, I'm not saying that college athletes don't deserve to get paid. That's not what I'm suggesting at all. But there is something to be said for the domino effect that takes place as a result of that decision to pay student athletes. You don't have to be a student athlete. When I started making money and had relative fame in the broadcasting business, it changes you. Most people, it will change you. Now, people that have the right crew around them or family around them, somebody that can sort of tackle you and put you down and say, hey, this is the reality. Cool it. Those are the ones that wind up fine. And that's most people. But from time to time, if you don't have the right people around you, it can go to your head and it could have a downward spiraling sort of effect. Again, not saying college athletes don't deserve to be paid on some level. I'm not going anywhere with that. I've always thought college athletes should get paid because their likeness is used, all of that. But let's not pretend there isn't going to be some sort of consequence that comes as a result of it. I was reading a story about Paulo Banchero of the Orlando Magic. He's really already taken the league by storm in his first few games in Orlando. But it was an interesting piece talking about the transition from college to the NBA and why it's been easier for him is because the experience for him playing at Duke in the 1 year he was there, known as a basketball star, he didn't have much of a transition because Duke is like professional basketball. And in the case of a kid in, North Carolina playing at Duke on that campus, it's sort of a fishbowl effect where it's almost like you're in a petting zoo is the way he equated it to. And people are always looking at you. And so he's already kind of been prepared for life in the NBA by his experience on Duke, or by his experience at Duke. It's a really interesting piece. I'll tweet it out on my Twitter feed at the back page. I don't have time to go through the entire thing and read it word for word to you. But he credits his college experience with Duke for helping him with his transition to the National Basketball Association. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004, and on Twitter at the back page. I think they're going to have to refine the NIL rules. I think they're going to have to do something, maybe cap it at a certain point. I don't know. But they're going to have to do something to sort of modify and construct it in a certain way. Look, nothing ever looks on day one the way it looks on day 365 or day 730 or anything like that. These things are always going to evolve. The college football playoff looks one way now, to look a different way in a couple of years, and 20 years from now, there'll be 16 teams. You just have to kind of wait for these different evolutions to take place, these revisions to take place, and the NIL will be no different. There's going to be changes. There's going to have to be, because sometimes you can't foresee certain problems with this sort of setup that college sports has put into place. All right, stick around. We're coming back. A couple of quarterback items. One, a former Patriot quarterback. One, a current Patriot quarterback. That could be one of two. You'll have to stick around and find out who it is. On the Cash In, I'm Jason Page at SportsMap Radio. Mm-hmm. These clowns. I can't stand them. Every time their promos come on, I just want to throw something. Welcome me back. Wednesday edition of the show. Could always be part of it. 800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. Tweet at us.
We're going to call them out.
At the back page.
Fred.
Man. So lucky to live in a place like Palm Springs.
See what I'm talking
Our
about.
guest lives in Denver, or in the Denver area
Fred
anyway.
Forward.
He is a former NFL safety, host of the Touchdown Denver podcast. He is a friend of... One 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. If you want to tweet at me, send me your worst. At the back page, hit me up there. Aaron Judge is trending on Twitter. I wonder why. Interesting piece from Jeff Passan, who followed Aaron Judge for a long profile at ESPN Plus. And I want to read you, just before I get to this thing on quarterbacks, I want to read you one piece from it that Jeff posted. And Jeff Passan is one of the best in the entire industry. He goes, "It's one reason the Yankees are perfect for Judge, who sees himself as a piece of a machine, a cog that might as well go nameless, fit for the only team whose jerseys identify players only by number. Throughout ballparks this summer and fall, jerseys with his number 99 on the back filled the stands. But this winter, Judge faces a decision he'll have to own. There is no we in free agency. It is him alone in complete control of his own actions, which isn't necessarily an unfamiliar position. He authored one of the most remarkable regular seasons in the history of a century-and-a-half-old game against the backdrop of rejecting the Yankees' 7-year, $213.5 million contract extension offer during spring training. Even then, Judge revealed a glimpse of the self-assuredness that will have to carry him through this winter. On that April day, Yankees general manager Brian Cashman went public with details of the offer, peeving Judge. Rizzo, with whom he has grown close in a short time, inquired about it soon thereafter. Judge's response still sticks with him today. Quote, "You don't think I'm worth more?" Wow. That is a must-read piece, by the way. Jeff Passan is terrific. I might have to subscribe to ESPN Plus just to read that piece. Hey, Belmer, you want to hear something funny? In the listing of teams that are favored to get Aaron Judge, guess who's in the top 5? No, it's not a trick question. Why is it got to be a trick question? The Red Sox are one of the teams in the top 5 to sign Aaron Judge in the listing of the odds. That is one of the team. That wasn't the reason I mentioned it, though. Yes, Houston is 4th in the odds makers betting. So obviously the Yankees, if not the Yankees, it lists all these teams. As I have predicted from the start, if it's not the Yankees, I have said it would be the San Francisco Giants. I hold fast to that. They are at plus 200. The Mets are at plus 275. The Dodgers are at plus 300. And number 4, not the Boston Red Sox, the Houston Astros at plus 600. Well, I mean, you could put him in left field and move Jordan to, make him a DH. Yeah, that's true. You could put him in center field. That's a big center field, though. Not that Yankee Stadium isn't a lot of ground to cover. That's a big center field. I don't know. To me, if you go and get Aaron Judge and spend all that money on him, putting him in a physically taxing position like center field doesn't make sense to me. I think you got to put him in right field. The Red Sox are next best odds at plus 800. The Rangers at plus 1,000 and the White Sox at plus 1,000. But the Giants are the odds-on favorite, if not the Yankees, at plus 200. And I'll stick with what I've been saying from the get-go. I think that's where he lands if he doesn't wind up with the Yankees. 2 quick stories involving quarterbacks. One, the current quarterback of the Patriots, or one of their 2 starting quarterbacks, Bailey Zappi being one, Mac Jones being the other. Mac Jones got some good news. He will start against the Jets in Week 8. I don't know if he finishes, but he certainly will start. Jones took about 90% of the team's first-team reps in practice today, according to Field Yates of ESPN. So I wonder if sort of the gloss is off of Zappi after that second half performance against the Bears, and now everything will settle back into place. And as long as Mac Jones plays fairly well, he will remain the starting quarterback. If we're off the Bailey Zappi kick already in New England, Jones has completed 65% of his passes this year, 799 yards, 2 touchdowns, 6 interceptions in just 4 games. He's been asking for them to kind of open up the offense a little bit more, play action, get a little more creative and give him some freedom. And the Patriots basically responded by saying, yeah, you know what? We'll make Bailey Zappi the quarterback. He doesn't cry and whine. And by the way, I agree with Mac Jones. If you're going to make somebody the starting quarterback of your team and you believe that much in them, then you should give them all the tools at their disposal to succeed. Otherwise, you're just setting them up to fail. And then you're open to, questioning whether or not you want somebody to fail. See how the Jets and Patriots fare this weekend. It's one of the 1 p.m. Eastern games on Sunday. New England 3-4. The Jets an improbable 5-2. I still think of all the surprising starts in football, that one is the one that still could end with them outside of the postseason. I know they're 5-2. I still think they'll wind up outside of the postseason. From a current Patriots starting quarterback to a former Patriots starting quarterback, Kurt Warner talking about Tom Brady's struggles in the early going and floating a theory as to why. This quote from Kurt Warner with regard to why Brady has looked like a shell of himself this season. I go and watch the tape from Sunday, and I just don't see the Tom Brady that we've come to know, Warner said Tuesday on NFL Network. The mistakes he's making, the things that he's not seeing. I'm not the one that ever wants to say some of the stuff that's going on outside the game seems to be trickling inside the game and inside the lines. We've never seen Tom Brady do that before. He's so good at focusing through everything else and being able to play football. But right now, he's doing things that aren't Tom Brady-esque, and you have to wonder whether that stuff is getting involved. That coming from Kurt Warner. And then there's another story that sort of emerged today that seems to go hand in hand with the idea that Brady's having a tough time focusing on what's going on the football field. This headline, Gisele Bündchen offers final ultimatum to Tom Brady. This coming from the folks at, I want to say Us Weekly. I want to make sure I'm right about that. Us Magazine, sorry. Us Magazine recently revealing that Gisele has issued Brady a final ultimatum to potentially save their marriage. According to a source, Gisele told Tom, quote, either he leaves football to spend time with the family or she is gone for good. She doesn't want him to continue to get injured and not be able to enjoy life in the future. The source added she is doing it for her family. I mean, what do you do if I know we've asked this question a million times before. Belmer, what do you do if you're Brady? Gisele Bündchen says, come home, Tom. Say go home. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Should have gone home. Should have stayed home. Now instead, he might wind up with some expensive... Well, I don't know. They're probably both going to win in the divorce. Both of them have tons of money. I don't think anybody's going to... I don't think they're going to have to go crying to each other to figure out how to make the financial end of it work, but not a good situation on the Brady front. I have insisted that I think he will retire before the season ends, and I will stick to that. See how I do with it. Third quarter, Nuggets on top of the Lakers, 66-58. We'll keep you posted. See how we do on our live bet tonight. We're back with more of the cash-in. NFL Week 8 early line bets on SportsMap Radio. Yeah. I know. I have an imaging guy, as you know, who's doing my imaging. I have to get him this. Yes, I do. Thank you for reminding me of that. Let me actually make a list. Let me actually put that down on my to-do list here. Hold on. Chad Erickson, NFL Week 8 early midweek line check. I gotta have him do that one. I gotta have him do our live betting game of the night. We already have Paige's picks on Friday. The cash in post game action. See, there's certain segments that I would like to thunder. So our live bet of the night, the game we've been keeping tabs on is the Lakers and the Nuggets. Denver 70, the Lakers 60, 6:28 to go third quarter. Late in the second quarter, we gave you our pick of the night, the live betting pick of the night here on the Cash In, which we've made a new nightly staple of. And 222.5. We said under 222.5 on the Lakers Nuggets on the live bet late in the second quarter. We'll see how we do. We nailed it last night, of course, on the Suns Warriors game, which was 240.5. The game went 239. So our run of winning just continues on this show. Page's picks, unfortunately, I've not been as good on Page's picks this year as I would like to be. I'm 14 wins, 15 losses for the year. I feel better picking games sometimes on Wednesday than I do when it comes to Page's picks on Friday. And then again on Sunday when I kind of double check the lines. It's been a struggle this year. Picking the NFL is not easy. But with that being said, one of my favorite things we do on the show is the midweek line check. And I'll kind of give you a sense of how I feel about where certain games are at this point of the week. And it's not an official pick, but it's kind of where I'm leaning on certain games. So let's begin with the Thursday night game, the Ravens and the Buccaneers tomorrow night in Tampa Bay. And look, I think the odds makers just continue to give too much credit to Tampa Bay. They still keep treating Tampa Bay and Green Bay like they're Tampa Bay and Green Bay of 2 or 3 years ago, and they're not. Again, not telling you who you should bet, but Baltimore plus 1.5 looks a lot better than Tampa Bay minus 1.5. That's all I'm going to tell you. So that's tomorrow night. Let's go to the weekend games. Of course, the game over in the UK, Denver and Jacksonville. Folks in the UK have messaged me and said, can we just send that one back to you? No, you cannot. You own it. Congratulations. The Jaguars are like your unofficial franchise anyway. They play there every year. Denver plus 2.5. I wouldn't touch it. The Jaguars have been terribly inconsistent. After going to 2-2 on the year, everybody was getting on the bandwagon, including myself. The idea that the Jaguars could win the AFC South. Well, now they're 2-5. And their season has gone south. You like what I did there, Belmer? Huh? Team AFC South to going south? Yeah? Thank you. Appreciate that. Your job is to you got to be like Ed McMahon on the Tonight Show. You got yes. Correct, sir. Thank you, Mr. Carson. Bears and Cowboys on Sunday. Let's get into the early window, the real early window. Bears and Cowboys. Look, coming off that performance in Foxborough, this game scares me with the line at 9.5. Because the Cowboys just don't score a ton of points. I know the Bears typically don't either, despite the fact they hung up 30-plus on the Patriots the other night. This line scares the hell out of me. Even though I think Dallas will win the game. Are they covering 9.5? I'll be interested to see if that makes it double digits, too. We haven't had a lot of double-digit lines in the league this year. I'll be curious to see if that one does become a double-digit line, or maybe it goes down with confidence starting to get a little higher on Chicago after the way they performed on Monday Night Football. Raiders in New Orleans to take on the Saints. Look, they are all must-wins for the Raiders at this point with where their season is. Same could be said for the Saints. The line is -1.5. It's not a game I have a ton of confidence in. I probably would not touch it. The Panthers and Falcons in Atlanta. Carolina kind of shocked the football world with what they did against Tom Brady and the Buccaneers on Sunday. And P.J. Walker played a nice, consistent game. The third-string quarterback. You know, this is a team that dumped Christian McCaffrey. Everybody thought they sort of gave up on the season. And lo and behold, they go and, get a win against Tampa Bay. And now they're in Atlanta to take on a Falcons team that's kind of looked rough the last couple of weeks. They've looked a little more like the Falcons that we expected them to look like when the season began. I kind of like Atlanta in this game. I'd be leaning in that direction at -4.5. But still not one that I have a ton of confidence in. We talked about double-digit lines. Here's one for you. Pittsburgh in Philadelphia, the interstate rivalry, Steelers and the Eagles. Philadelphia, undefeated, as everybody knows, on the season. They are -10.5. The Steelers have not looked good, and that 10.5 is probably very much justified. If anything in this game, I would probably lean towards the total. 43.5 is the number. I kind of like the under in that game right now. Miami and Detroit, the Lions, got off to a very interesting start, scored a lot of points. Now they've sort of slowed down a bit. Tua Tagovailoa is back. Detroit can't stop anybody from a defensive standpoint. I kind of like Miami minus the 3.5 if we're talking about the early line on that game. The total is 51.5. I would probably lean towards the over in that game. Arizona and Minnesota. Look, the Vikings have been one of the surprise teams this year. They're 5-1, but if you remember a conversation we had with pregame.com's Scott Seidenberg, people who have analyzed that 5-1 say it could very easily be a 1-5. That's how lucky the Vikings have been in some of these games. So the -3.5 probably justified in not being a bigger line, despite the fact that the Vikings on paper have such a better record than the Arizona Cardinals do this year. 48.5 is the total. 3.5 is the line with the Vikings as the favorite. I would probably stay clear of that one. Patriots and Jets. Now, this might shock you. The Patriots are -2.5 on the road. Listen to me carefully. The Jets are 5-2. The Patriots are 3-4. The game is in New Jersey, home of the Jets, and the Patriots are the favorite at -2.5. Nobody respects the Jets, and that includes me. If you told me to bet on the game, and Bill Belichick has owned the Jets for so long. How do you take the Jets? And I know we're supposed to stray away, and this is something we talked about with Scott. You have to start straying away from what you think you know and from giving respect to certain players, and in this case, a certain coach. I can't do it. I cannot take the Jets against the Patriots. I've just seen too many times where Bill Belichick gets the best of the team that he was supposed to be the head coach of 20 years ago. So no, I can't do it. I'm taking the Patriots -2.5. That'll probably be one of Paige's picks on Friday. That's how strongly I feel about it. And I'll probably lean towards the under at 40.5 because Zach Wilson hasn't really done anything from an offensive standpoint since coming in and becoming the starting quarterback for that team after starting out the season injured. Love the Patriots minus the 2.5. Titans and Texans in Houston. One of those games where, it could dictate a lot in terms of what the Texans do at the trade deadline. If they should lose at home to Tennessee this weekend, I think they're big-time sellers. They are plus 2.5 at home, and probably a game where I like Tennessee minus 2.5. Not sure if I'll go with it in Paige's picks, but certainly one of the games I like on paper on this Wednesday edition of the show. All right, let's get into some more of the late games. Giants and the Seahawks. Look, you have to believe in the Giants at this point. They've given you no reason not to believe them. They have an identity. They've got a quarterback that's avoiding making mistakes. They've got a running back in Saquon Barkley, and they can get stops. They've got some good edge rushers. I know Seattle has been kind of up and down, and Geno Smith has had a terrific season. This is an impossible game for me to pick. I probably won't touch it. 44.5 is the total. I think that's right on the button. I think it'll be right around that number. And +3 to the Giants, despite a 6-1 record, tells you they're still not getting the respect from the odds makers. They are road underdogs as a 6-1 team, but they're also an East Coast team traveling west. We've seen what happens in these sorts of situations. Sometimes that travel bug can get you. The Commanders in Indianapolis to take on Sam Ehlinger and the Colts. Who would have thought we'd be saying that in Week 8 of the NFL season? Put your hand down. You're lying. The Commanders +3 in this game. The total is 39.5. If anything, I would lean towards the under in that game with Ehlinger, and you have to think they'll be fairly conservative on offense with a guy who's never started an NFL game in his life. You'd have to think that this game goes under. I don't care what you think of Taylor Heineke. Rams and the 49ers rounds out the late slate of games in the NFL on Sunday. 49ers -1.5. They have looked bad the last 2 weeks. Some of it is Jimmy Garoppolo. Some of it has been a defense that I rated as Super Bowl caliber and hasn't played to a Super Bowl caliber level over the last couple of weeks. Probably not a game that I would touch with those two teams. The Rams still dealing with the Super Bowl hangover. Probably a game I stay away from. The Sunday night game is the Packers and the Bills. Quite interesting. I think Buffalo could win this game by 3 touchdowns. I mean, when was the last time you saw a Aaron Rodgers-led Packers team as a 10.5-point underdog anywhere? They're getting 10.5. And I'd probably lay all 10.5 of them. I'd probably lay 14 of them. And I'll be honest, I wouldn't be shocked if that line goes up between now and Sunday. With the news that Brett Favre didn't practice on Wednesday, the continued, downward spiral in Green Bay. Did I say Brett Favre? Sorry, Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, it's brain injuries. Aaron Rodgers, yeah. I mean, with the way Aaron Rodgers has played, I don't know. And again, missing practice on Wednesday. You just sort of see the way this thing's going. And he said on Sunday, maybe this is the good thing for us. Maybe this is what we need because everybody's down on us. Well, everybody's down on you because you stink. Your team's not good. And 10.5 to me seems kind of generous considering how Green Bay has played and how Buffalo has played through the first 7 weeks of the NFL season. I love Buffalo minus 10.5 right now. I'd grab it before it goes up because it may by the time we get to this game on Sunday. The Monday night game is the Bengals and Browns. Too early to call, but Cincinnati offense finally looked like the Cincinnati offense we thought we'd see. The Browns lost a heartbreaker against the Ravens. Had their opportunities to steal that game in the fourth quarter. Cincinnati minus 3.5 on the road in Cleveland. 47 is the total, probably not a game. I will touch. You got a game you like? 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. Paige's picks will come your way on Friday. Again, we're 14-15 on the season. There's times I've picked games and felt like Nostradamus, and there's times I've picked games and felt like it was my mother picking games. I've just been terrible. Very inconsistent. Got to own it. Been very inconsistent. The NBA game going on right now, we've been keeping tabs on the Lakers and the Nuggets. That game right now in the, let's see here. I don't want to see NBA Finals betting. That game is 26 seconds to go in the third quarter. Denver 85, the Lakers 71. We liked the live betting. We liked the under in the live betting. 222 and a half was the live betting line late in the second quarter. We told you to take the under. 85-71 nearing the end of the third quarter in Denver. Lakers on the verge of going to 0-4 on the young NBA season. We'll come back, wrap up this hour of the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. Brett Favre. So I'm going to tell you something. There's getting set to put the wraps on hour number 2. Interesting, the live betting line. And this is how I know I'm dead on yet again. We told you. Minute 30 left in the second quarter. I told all of you, take the under in the Nuggets-Lakers game on the live betting. It was 222.5. Do you know what the live betting total is now, Mr. John Belmer, producer, engineer extraordinaire on the show? No, it's gone way down. 213.5 is the live betting line, which means that's well under 222.5, which means the current prognostications have this game going way under the 222.5. I told you all to take late in the second quarter. You have to listen to us on this show. You got to listen. I know what I'm talking about. I know NBA live betting. Trying to make you some money. That's all I can do. I can only lead a horse to water. Can't make him drink it. Next hour of the show is right around the corner. That's what that music means. A fascinating story out of New York involving the Yankees. And something else we predicted has come to pass. I'll tell you what that is. Another scary concussion story in the NFL, too, I'll tell you about. But my sympathy quotient's just about gone. Plus, Nick Ferguson, don't go anywhere. Another hour of the cash-in is next. Got it in. Yeah. Sure. It's okay. We'll get you there. We'll get you there. Be right back. I had to grab a drink.
Probably should have started there in that third quarter when they were struggling. So let's see if he can pick it up here.
Missed the free throw. But that's 5 quick points for James. The Lakers back within 10. Here's Jeff Green. Way off on the three. Denver shooting under 25%. James in transition with the catch. Falling away. No good. And no gold jerseys on the basket.
Denver's got to figure out a way here in the half court to create some offense with Jokic and Murray on the bench, and a lot of it's going to be Bones Highland.
There he is with a pull-up. Can't get it to go. Rough start for Denver here offensively in the fourth. Highland is just 1 for 10 from the floor. He came in averaging 10 points per game. He has just 3 points. And a push underneath by Davis.
Hey, you know what time it is? Final hour of a Wednesday/Thursday edition of the show. Glad to have you with us. You know, it's funny. Earlier in the show, during one of the breaks, our producer, engineer extraordinaire, John Belmer, except when he plays the rejoin for the wrong show, he he said, when are you going to pay up on your bet? I made a bet with a host on the local station that SportsMap Radio owner David Gow owns, and Patrick Creighton is his name. And I made a bet with him before the Yankees-Astros series that whoever won, the loser of the bet, which was me because I had the Yankees, would have to wear the jersey of the winning team. So earlier in the show, John Belmer asked me, when you gonna pay up on your bet? And I said, I'm not sure. I gotta go out and buy a jersey and all that stuff. And I don't live in a city that's just loaded with Houston Astros jerseys, so I'm obviously gonna have to go and order one. But I am gonna get a Jeremy Pena jersey. I have decided that. If I'm gonna wear an Astros jersey, I'll wear the Pena jersey. Maybe I'll get him to autograph it one day, and it'll actually be worth something. So anyway, he asked me earlier in the show, when am I going to pay up on the bet? Not only am I not having paid up on the bet yet, not only have I not done that, I'm actually wearing tonight on the show a New York Yankees sweater. I'm wearing a Yankees sweatshirt. I don't know if that should be allowed, but I'm doing it anyway. And you know what this sweatshirt is, Belmer? It is, it's got a patch on it. It says World Series winner 2009. It's been 13 years since the Yankees won a World Series. It's surprisingly long. I don't realize it's been that long. Might be another 13 when you come back and hear the story that I have for you too. Stick around. That's next on the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. How about that segue? Can of Diet Coke. My gout bomb for the night. Oh, don't ever get gout, man. That is the worst. Oh, it's so bad. It's so bad. Oh, it's terrible. Oh, dude, I eat every gout-inducing thing except for alcohol. But I consume every gout-inducing thing imaginable. And I love all of them. So the other night, I don't know, were you doing the show with me the other night when I opened? Yeah, you were, when I opened the box of cards. Yeah. Still staring at Carlos Correa. Oh, it's so bad. I'm staring at him right now. I just want to take a hot steaming dump on them. It's just awful. It really is. It's just terrible. I don't see any reason why they would go get him. They don't have room for him. Dude, Anthony Volpe is the future of that franchise. He's a shortstop, right? Correa. I mean, if you're talking about him, yeah. I mean, unless he's willing to move to third, I mean, technically Volpe is a second baseman. This year he got off to a horrendous start. The first 2 months he couldn't hit anything. He finished 249, 21 and 65 with 50 stolen bases. Almost entirely at Double-A. Kid's he's the number one prospect in the organization. Him and then Jess and Dominguez. Yeah, that one would surprise me. I don't. Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, it's not me saying it, it's what I wouldn't have thought it either. But That'd be the greatest troll job ever by the Astros. Jesus. Can you imagine? Who says they don't want Aaron Judge? Yeah. Actually, did Jason Dominguez... Yeah, Volpe is the number 1 prospect. Jason Dominguez is number 2. 19 years old is Dominguez. Lakers trying to make it interesting in Denver. Man, we are so good at live betting on this show. Just making you money. That's what we're doing. That's what we're all about doing, is just trying to make you money. We told you late in the second quarter to take the Lakers Nuggets game under 220.5. 96-84 with 7:11 to go in the fourth quarter. Anything can happen. We could wind up being wrong. I doubt it. But anything could happen. So we'll keep tabs on it and see how it's going. Later on in the hour, about 28 minutes from now, my conversation with Nick Ferguson, former NFL safety, host of the Touchdown Denver podcast. I have a question I have to ask. It's completely random, but I'll ask it coming up in about 12 minutes on the show. About a certain NBA player that I was watching play tonight, and I'm trying to figure out how on earth he's playing. I'll explain. You have to listen for it. Coming up in 12 minutes. So the story du jour today involving the Yankees as it relates to Aaron Judge and free agency and the wholesale changes that could be coming to the Yankees as a result of they're being swept out of the postseason by the Houston Astros. There's two items of interest. One is actually something that I referred to on the show last night. So the fact that it actually was a story today, I kind of feel like a clairvoyant. It's kind of crazy. But one is Aaron Boone will almost certainly be back next year. So everybody's saying, Aaron Boone's got to go, Yankee fans say. Aaron Boone's got to go. Fire Aaron Boone. Who you replace him with? I don't know, but anything would be better. Aaron Boone's not going anywhere. Yankees principal owner Hal Steinbrenner making it very clear today that Aaron Boone is going to be the manager of the Yankees next year. How do we know that? On Wednesday, Hal told the AP that the organization planned to have Boone back at the helm in 2023. Quote, I don't see a change there. Well, as far as Boone's concerned, we just signed him. And for all the same reasons I listed a year ago, said Steinbrenner, I believe he is a very good manager. As for Brian Cashman, Steinbrenner said, quote, Cash and I had some preliminary conversations Monday in New York about the general manager's status. Cashman is on an expiring contract, but he's had the backing of ownership since Steinbrenner officially took over the club's operations in 2010 following the death of George Steinbrenner. In late August, Cashman made it clear he was behind Boone. So it sounds like the Yankees, power dynamic is going to remain in place. Think of that what you may. Again, if you don't have a better solution, don't come on this show or any other show and sit here and tell me how the Yankees need to fire Aaron Boone and Brian Cashman. And don't say anything would be better, because it's not. So many times people like to think the grass is greener. And this kind of ties into the next story about this whole thing going on in New York right now. And I talked about it last night on the show. Yankee fans have a sense of entitlement. They think it is their birthright to be in the World Series every year because of what happened in the late 90s and early 2000s. And the fact of the matter is, it's really hard to win World Series. Even when you're really good. Look at all the trips the Astros have made, to the World Series in the last several years. They've won once. That's it. It's really difficult to win a World Series. Go look at the Dodgers and all the success they've had in recent years. How many World Series have they won with this group? You name it. I mean, it's very difficult. And it could be, as I was just saying, a while longer before the Yankees win a World Series. And here's why. If guys don't want to come and play for your organization, if a situation is deemed toxic for one reason or another, you could have a very difficult time attracting free agents. You need any proof? Go look at the Knicks for the last 20 years. How many times have we been teased with the idea of the Knicks are clearing cap space so that they can go and get such and such player, and then such and such player decides he's going to go and play somewhere else? Because the situation with Knicks ownership and James Dolan being a complete incompetent imp is something that's known around the league. People don't want to come and play for him. We see it all the time. And it's happened for years. And now the Yankees may find themselves in a difficult situation when it comes to trying to recruit players. Headline: toxic, quote, fan culture could cause Aaron Judge and others to pass on the Yankees. SNY, which is a network in New York, has a Yankee reporter by the name of Andy Martino. I almost got him on the show tonight to talk about this. Reported earlier today, multiple members of the Yankees have complained behind the scenes about a supposed toxic fan culture they experienced at Yankee Stadium, particularly when New York dropped games 3 and 4 of the ALCS to the Astros last weekend. More than one Yankee player has told his agent this week that playing in the stadium last weekend was an unusually brutal experience. Quote, "It was hard for many teammates to believe that fans booed Judge. Even a difficult person and underperformer like Josh Donaldson was turned into a somewhat sympathetic figure internally by the force of the jeering. In the days that followed, many in the organization were surprised by the tone of fan and media reaction. Rivals were shocked too, with a longtime MLB executive telling Martino, quote, he was struck by the irrational opinions on Yankees GM Brian Cashman and manager Aaron Boone shared by people who are, quote, spoiled and have a World Series or bust mentality." This is amazing because I said all of this last night before this story came out today. Go and listen to last night's show. New York sports radio legend Mike Francesa is among those who have called for the club to make wholesale changes after the sweep at the hands of the Astros. What's amazing, the headline there is they were able to get Mike Francesa to wake up. The guy's been sleeping for like 3 years. So it's, look, whether this is fair or not, and I personally feel that fans have a right to boo. If you underperform, this is what New York is. It's always been this way. When you are great in New York, you will be loved like more than any market in all of professional sports. There is a certain thing that New York sports fans do. And I've lived in New York. I grew up in the Northeast. There are certain things New York sports fans do to show their love and admiration for their professional athletes. Derek Jeter got booed when he started out a season 0 for 32 for the Yankees. Derek Jeter, who was one vote short of a unanimous pick for the Baseball Hall of Fame. Mariano Rivera got booed walking off the mound. He was a unanimous pick for the Hall of Fame. The Yankees boo people when they struggle. That's what Yankee fans do. Now, with that being said, there are how many players in Major League Baseball? If there's, 25 men on a roster, 30 teams, let's just say 700 players in Major League Baseball. This is a tiny fraternity, relatively speaking. This is a small profession. Everybody knows everybody. There's a reason why guys are so friendly when they're on the base paths and the guy comes over and the first baseman smacks him on the rear end. There's a reason for that. It's a small fraternity. Everybody knows everybody. And for as many players, or lack of the players that there are, there's even less agents around the league. They all talk to each other. You know what that means? Word gets around fast. If New York isn't a friendly place to play, and players start to view it that way, it's going to be difficult to attract free agents to improve the team. Yankee fans say, we want so-and-so. We want to get better. Go out and sign this person. Well, guess what? This person would rather go play in L.A., where it's sunny, 12 months a year, 345 days a year. This person would rather go play in, a market like Chicago, or a market like Washington, or a market like Houston, or a market like Texas, where maybe a team doesn't even have a chance to win, but they're going to make tons of money. They aren't going to have to pay any taxes. Remember, in New York, you're going to get whacked on taxes. And you're not going to have to deal with a million cameras in your face after the game asking you why everybody's booing you. This is a big problem. And I know there are some people that think the Yankees planted this story and that Andy Martino was basically the lackey doing the Yankees bidding and printing a story that was planted in the press to try and pin this on the fans when the Yankees don't go and get the free agents that fans want them to go get. I don't buy that. I think it's very conspiracy theorish. I think it's tinfoil wrapped around your head stupid. And I know that to be true because just last night on the show, before this story ever emerged, I was saying to you on this show that Yankee fans have a sense of entitlement. And again, I don't have a problem if you want to boo. But understand that players are going to get soft. Guys are going to say, I don't need the headache. Yeah, I'd like to win a World Series, but I don't feel like dealing with it. I don't know if that's going to be Aaron Judge. I don't know if that's going to be a free agent like a Carlos Correa who decides he doesn't want to come and play there. But you're hearing multiple players now talk about this culture in New York with the fan base and the difficulties that come with the fan base like New York has. And like I always say, when there's smoke, there's fire. And there's clearly something here. And it's not going to change, by the way. I'm not saying this in the hopes that Yankee fans are listening and they say, we need to change our ways. We need to behave better and support our hometown players more. That's not going to happen. That's not New York. It's not the personality of the city. It's not the personality of the fan base. But when you don't get what you want in your holiday wish list of free agents that you hope come to New York and are playing in spring training in Tampa come February of next year, you might have to look at yourself a little bit. Not saying the Yankees are going to win, 79 games next year and be terrible all of a sudden. But it could take a while before players decide, free agents decide they want to come and play in New York and deal with everything that comes with being a New York Yankee. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. Tweet at us if you want to, at The Back Page. Hit me up on Twitter, at The Back Page. I don't know how a particular NBA player that I saw tonight playing in an NBA game is being allowed to play. I'll get to that. And the consequences that come with playing in the NFL. We'll talk about that as well as we continue. The Cash In on SportsMap Radio. Lakers are going to be 0-4. Yep. Yeah, LeBron looks so frustrated. I suggested on the show last night that he may wind up asking for a trade at the deadline. Yes. Dude, he's not playing for shits and giggles anymore. He wants to either win a title or be able to play long enough to play with his son. He's not going to stay in this environment where they're getting their asses kicked every night. No way. And if you're the Lakers and you trade him to the right team and can Oh, my God, the draft picks you can get? Dude, I do it. You're about to say he's not. Yes. If you're a team that's a 4 or 5 seed right now, absolutely. Absolutely. If you're a 4 or 5 seed and he's the difference between you making the playoffs and winning an NBA title, absolutely. Give me him all day. I think there's something to be said for that. I don't think it's all his fault, though. Rob Pelinka, did not put shooters around him. Yeah. Well, should have got John Wall. I mean, Jesus. Tonight, LeBron, 19.7 rebounds, 9 assists, but 8 turnovers. Jesus Christmas. He had 8 turnovers. 8 of the team's 13 turnovers. Wowie zowie, that's a lot. Wow. We told you 220 and 222 and a half. We're going so far under that number, it's not even funny. This would have been a no sweat bet. Ugh. God. Good tune. Banana, banana. 28 minutes past the hour. Coming up in 12 minutes, my conversation with former NFL safety Nick Ferguson, friend of the Cash In. Get some thoughts with him on the Broncos. They're going to be sellers at the deadline. Nathaniel Hackett going to be out of a job. Going to be swimming back to the U.S. If they lose this game to Jacksonville, he could get left on the tarmac. It is a real possibility. We've seen it happen before in the NFL in these UK games. Guys get left behind. You want to say something, Belmer? Yes, it has. Yep. Yes, it's happened. Yep. No, it's been like sort of a staple of the league in recent years. You've had coaches in midseason firings get left in the UK. You're flying commercial home. Good luck. Yeah, it's a brutal profession. We told you to take the total at 222.5 in the Lakers-Nuggets game when it was late in the second quarter and it was available. And if you did take my advice, you are a winner tonight. Nuggets beat the Lakers 110-99. The Lakers dropped to 0-4. And LeBron just looked miserable on the bench before this game ended. Wow. 110-99, Nuggets beat the Lakers. LeBron had a nice game, except when you look in the turnover column, and he had 8 of them. He had 8 of the Lakers' 13 turnovers tonight. Well, it turned into 14. One of them was probably like a late shot clock violation as the game ended, so that doesn't really count. So let's say 8 of the team's 13 turnovers, LeBron James. 19 points, 9 assists, 7 rebounds. Anthony Davis had 22 and 14 in the loss. How about Nikola Jokic? I can't believe this guy isn't a favorite, again, to win the MVP this year. 31 points, 13 rebounds, 9 assists. He was 1 assist shy of a triple-double tonight in 35 minutes. 12 of 17 shooting. Wow. Lakers can't shoot. They were 8 of 30 from three-point range. They lose 110-99, drop to 0-4. Nuggets get the win. So, Nick Ferguson coming up, as I said, in about 9 minutes. two quickies to get to here. I am absolutely flummoxed when I saw this story tonight. I was watching and look, I get that Terry Rozier is out with injury and LaMelo Ball is out with injury, but somebody has to explain to me how James Bouknight was on the court tonight for the Charlotte Hornets playing the Knicks. And if you don't know the story, it broke exactly a week ago today, where the Hornets guard was found I mean, this is just like the the hat trick of stupidity and irresponsibility. Not stupidity, we'll say irresponsibility. Hornets guard James Bouknight was found intoxicated, 1, unconscious, 2, and holding a gun with his vehicle in drive before he was arrested on Sunday morning on DWI charges, according to Charlotte Mecklenburg County Police. How is this guy on a court representing a team right now? Look, I'm not like anybody who knows me knows I'm not a moralist. Okay? I don't care what you do. But when you put people's lives in danger, intoxicated, unconscious, gun being held, and this was just a week or so ago, how on earth is this guy on the court representing the Charlotte Hornets tonight in their game against the Knicks? Police said they responded to reports that a person was passed out in his vehicle in a Charlotte parking lot Sunday morning, blocking the traffic way. According to the police report, officers saw Bouknight unconscious inside the vehicle with the vehicle running and in drive. He had the handgun in his hands. So now officers had to set up a perimeter, attempted to wake up Bouknight for approximately an hour. Can you imagine? They sat outside the car for an hour using a public address system, blasting air horns, and using lights, and he wouldn't wake up. Do you know how absolutely spit-faced you'd have to be? I substituted spit for another word. You're welcome. Do you know how absolutely blotto you have to be that out? Public address system, air horns, using lights. Police said once Bouknight was awake, he refused to comply with commands, appeared confused for several minutes. Gee, I wonder why. They said he ate food inside his vehicle and then crashed into two police cars, one in front of him and another behind him. Then he left the vehicle and he was detained. Breathalyzer confirmed his alcohol content was 0.14. North Carolina's legal limit was 0.08. Now, keep in mind, he was in the car for a while. He was probably a lot drunker at the time that he fell asleep. He was 0.14 a couple hours later, basically. Jesus. He was not charged for possession of a gun because under North Carolina law, open carry is permitted in cases where the firearm is considered legal and Bouknight has a pending concealed carry permit. It's another topic entirely. Attempts to reach his agent weren't immediately successful. Stated at the scene he had approximately 4 tequila shots prior to driving home. What a great idea. Let me give you a great idea, guys. Let's do 4 tequila shots and then get into a car. There's a reason this matters to me. About 3 years ago, I lost a dear friend to a drunk driver who killed my friend on his motorcycle. 3 days ago, I woke up to news that a girl I dated in high school and have been friends with ever since was killed by a drunk driver at 4:45 in the morning in Orlando, Florida, while driving home from a event that she was DJing at. Drunk driving does not get treated nearly seriously as it should by sports leagues. There's no way, if I am the Charlotte Hornets, I allow James Bouknight to represent my organization with what's basically out there in the public domain. I don't care what the reasons were. This kid's 22 years old. He could have killed somebody. And just because he didn't, now if he had killed somebody, he wouldn't have been on the court. So act reckless and don't kill anybody, you can play. Kill somebody, then you can't play. It's like waving around a loaded gun and just shooting it and hope it doesn't hit somebody. That's what drunk driving is. Book Knight shouldn't have been on the floor tonight. We're back with Nick Ferguson on SportsMap Radio. It makes me so angry. Hornets. It's crazy. And you know what? What's even crazier is he was given all that he got hit with was a bond for $2,500. He also faces pending charges for 3 other separate incidents. He's due in court November 29th on charges of speeding, reckless driving, and wanton disregard. Has a court date December 6th for speeding and reckless driving to endanger. Court date December 13th for reckless driving and wanton disregard. How is this guy on the court? Gotta be kidding me. Yeah. Yeah. Some states have such lax gun laws, though. You're in one of those states. And I live in like the strictest state. It's so hard to get a permit to carry a gun here. And I would love to get a gun, but they make it so difficult that I won't even bother. I'd love to carry a gun. Yeah. That's crazy. I'm not anti. I see a lot of people would listen and be like, he's anti. I'm not anti-gun. I just think there needs to be stricter laws. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, I get it. Book Knight also had an alcohol-related incident while he was a freshman at UConn in 2019. Yeah, he's clearly got a drinking problem. Police said Book Knight smelled of alcohol and fled from an officer after driving another student's car into a road sign near campus in 2019. What were you doing in college? Book Knight was charged with evading responsibility, interfering with police, driving without a license, and driving too fast for conditions, and he received probation, leaving him without a criminal record. And you wonder. Yeah. Welcome me back. Welcome me back. Wednesday of the show. Could always be. Welcome me back. Wednesday edition of the show. Could always be part of it. 800-224-2004. 800-224-2004. Tweet at us at the back page. Oh, man. So lucky to live in a place like Palm Springs. Our guest lives in Denver, or in the Denver area anyway. He is a former NFL safety, host of the Touchdown Denver podcast. He is a friend, a legitimate friend of the program, and a guy that I kind of feel bad for because he's going to get snow where he lives, and I'll never see snow as long as I live in Palm Springs. It's Nick Ferguson who joins us on the show tonight. Hi, Nick.
Hey, man, what's going on?
Just rubbing little salt in the wounds that you have to deal with stuff. Let me ask you, do you shovel your own driveway, or does somebody come and do it for you?
Me, man, my mom and my dad would be so upset with me if I had
Item of choice when it comes to podcasting. So go check it out. Cash In Podcast. You'll be able to hear my conversation with Nick Ferguson at that time. Lakers are the big headlines tonight from sports. Lakers are now 0-4 after a loss in Denver against the Nuggets, 110-99. Nuggets improved to 3-2 on the season. Elsewhere around the league tonight, Cleveland beat Orlando 103-92. I loved the Donovan Mitchell move, and I'm curious to see, where they sort of land in the Eastern Conference playoff picture after being a play-in team last year. Cavaliers 3-1 on the year now. Hawks beat the Pistons 118-113. Atlanta's 3-1 on the year. Pistons dropped to 1-4. Knicks, as I mentioned earlier in the night, in overtime, beat the Hornets 134-131. Jalen Brunson, 27.7 rebounds, a career-high 13 assists in the victory. Raptors to 3-2. They beat the 76ers 119-109. Bucks 110. Nets 99. Brooklyn is now 1-3. Yikes. Pacers fall in Chicago to the Bulls, who improved to 3-2, 124-109. By the way, the Bucks with that win over the Nets now 3-0 on the year. Spurs fall in Minnesota to the T-Wolves, 134-122. Both teams are 3-2. Boy, there's a lot of points being scored around the league. The Jazz are 4-1. Most people probably thought they'd be 4-20 through the first 24 games. They're already 4-1. Beat the Rockets tonight, 109-101. Rockets dropped to 1-4. They're going to be in the Wembanyama sweepstakes for sure. Heat beat the Blazers tonight, 119-98. Miami improves to 2-3. Blazers suffer their first loss of the season, and we mentioned the Lakers falling to the Nuggets tonight. Just to go back to that James Bouknight story, I was talking about it during the break with John Belmer, our producer engineer on the show, working on things for us back in Houston. What's even worse about this Bouknight situation, and I don't want to belabor the point too long, this is clearly a kid that's sort of a problem child, so to speak. He's 22 years old. So relatively speaking, he's a child. I talked about the 4 tequila shots he took before driving home and all that. Well, apparently, this is not his first issue. According to court documents obtained by the Mecklenburg County Clerk of Superior Court, the 22-year-old Bouknight also faces pending charges for 3 other separate incidents. You know what the Charlotte Hornets are doing right now with this kid? They're enabling him. They're enablers. They're enabling James Bouknight to behave the way he's behaving because they're still letting him play. How do you punish somebody? You don't put them on the court. How do you enable somebody? You let them keep playing. And he was playing meaningful minutes in that game tonight. So here's what's outstanding against him besides the latest charges against him. Due in court November 29th on charges of speeding, reckless driving, and wanton disregard. He has a court date December 6th for speeding, reckless driving to endanger. And then he has a court date December 13th for reckless driving and wanton disregard. This is a guy who's behaving incredibly irresponsibly. Why on earth are the Charlotte Hornets allowing him to continue playing? It just doesn't add up. And you won't hear anybody else talking about this. I know it's not glamorous. It's not the X's and O's stories. And we talk about a lot of that stuff and we get into the sports betting side of things. But as a guy who has a platform every night, I have a responsibility to talk about these things. They matter. People get killed every day by drunk drivers. And this kid's out there having 4 tequila shots and then getting behind the wheel of a car. Unbelievable. He told reporters last week, I just wanted to apologize for being a distraction before the start of the season for my teammates and what we've got going on. He called the arrest disappointing, adding, I'm trying to learn from it, be able to stay strong, move on, and continue to grow. You want to talk about just the company line right there. What about the other three things? And the incident at UConn where you got into an alcohol-related incident while you were a freshman at the university. It's brutal. And Steve Clifford, the head coach of the Hornets, he's enabling this right now. Just, again, not trying to kill this kid, but I mean, you've got to set an example as an organization. And I talked about this years ago. Not to go off on a tangent here, but I will, because I can. It's my show. I talked about this years ago when it came to the Aaron Hernandez story with the Patriots. They knew exactly who Aaron Hernandez was before they brought him to that organization and while he was with that organization. They knew everything. And the reason I know this is these teams hire former police officers and detectives to work in their security group. You think these players aren't being followed or at least kept an eye on them? Everything. Teams know everything that's going on with these guys. Police departments are complicit in this. They let players off the hook. I mean, this happens everywhere. It happens in big colleges around the nation. I know it's happened at the University of Connecticut over the years because I hosted sports talk there and used to talk to people in the police force, and they used to tell me the stories of catching kids getting in trouble with the law and just letting them go because they were a big-time college athlete. Big fish, little pond, University of Connecticut. So the New England Patriots knew exactly who Aaron Hernandez was. They unleashed that on the community. And sports teams have a responsibility to the communities where they exist to not bring in these sorts of problems, to not bring in these sorts of athletes or not keep them in that community as part of their organization if they continue to be a problem. And in the case of Book Night, that's exactly what's going on here with the Hornets. This isn't a first-time offender, a kid who went out and made a mistake one night. Not that it would be any better if he killed somebody in his lone drunk driving incident. But this is a guy who has repeatedly flouted the law. And yet he's out there playing. No consequences. No consequences. Amazing. Speaking of consequences, you'll often hear me rail about the NFL and its concussion policies. And, you know, how it's not protecting players adequately. And we saw, obviously, what happened in the case of Tua Tagovailoa. Another one of those stories that reminds you of just how dangerous life is in the NFL. Lions defensive back Savion Smith shared his story on Wednesday. He talked about a scary play that happened on the field against New England a couple weeks back. The story reads just briefly like this. Kyle Menke wrote the story for MLive.com, talking about the Lions defensive back. For about, he couldn't move his arms, he couldn't move his legs, he couldn't even speak. For about 20 seconds, Lions defensive back Savion Smith was paralyzed on the field in New England. It was scary, Smith said. The scariest thing of my life. Former undrafted free agent who's bounced around the league was paralyzed for 20 seconds. Second play of the game. Smith tried to jam Patriots tight end Hunter Henry. Everything in his body locked up. He collapsed to the field. He remembers trying to speak, but no words coming out. Quote, I could see everything. I could hear everything. I saw my teammates on the sideline, he said. but I just couldn't move. I was trying to extend my arms, move my legs. I couldn't do nothing for like 20 seconds. Wow. That story scares the bejesus out of me. But these guys get out there every week and go after it, which leads me to say this. You know the score. You know the consequences. You make the choice to go out there and play. I have so much sympathy for guys who go through this game and get banged up the way they do and come out of it far differently than the way they went into it. However, my sympathy quotient can only go so far for NFL players because a decade ago, we already knew what the risks for this sort of thing were. We knew the risks involved from a concussion standpoint, head injury, neck trauma, back trauma, leg trauma. Go watch the guys that go to the Hall of Fame ceremony every year. They look like creatures out of the Walking Dead series. They look like zombies walking up onto the stage in many cases. And in some cases, they don't even make it onto the stage. They sit out in the crowd. Some of them can't even speak the same way because of the damage they've suffered in the game. But the reality is, NFL players today in the year 2022 know exactly what they're getting themselves into. Not to say I don't feel sorry for them. I do. But at this stage of the game, you know the score. You know, it's like NASCAR drivers who decide to drive on an oval slope track 3 wide at 200 miles an hour. And then one of them flips over, hits the wall, somebody dies. We all go, oh my God, it's so tragic. It's tragic, but is it unexpected? You know the risks. And when I read a story like the one of Savion Smith, for a moment I go, oh my God, that's so terrible. But then there's the other half of me, the more, I don't know. I don't want to say it's cold, but it's the more practical side of me that sits there and says, you made that decision. Nobody's forcing you to play in the NFL. These guys choose this. And guess what? I guarantee if you ask him if he's ready to run out there and do it all over again, his answer would be yes. Some professional athletes, they're just built differently. But just another scary example of how dangerous professional football on any level can be. We'll come back, wrap up this episode of The Cash In on SportsMap Radio. Yeah. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Athletes. College athletes. That's good. We don't need too many. Yeah, don't worry about that one. Oh, really? No kidding. Oh, just tonight, you mean? Oh, okay. Cool. That's cool. So in other words, my show is coming right back after this one ends. So I'm like Sports Center overnight. Great. Can we do the fixes for it like they do? The fixes. They do this thing. Like if they mess up something and the show's going to be replayed overnight, they actually go back and fix it. Yeah, they re-record stuff. If you ever want to laugh harder than you've ever laughed in your life, Kenny Mayne, about 13 years ago, ESPN did a short series called Main Street, Mayne, Main Street. And one of the episodes is called Fixes. The name of the show is called Main Street. Find the episode called Fixes. It stars Kenny Mayne and Scott Van Pelt. You will piss your pants laughing. It's so funny. I swear. Yeah. I'm going to get Kenny on the show one of these nights soon. Kenny's a buddy. I've just been kind of holding that one back, but I want to get Kenny on. Yeah, I've interviewed him a couple times, and we DM each other quite a bit. Getting set to put the reps on this baby. Hey, if you have not done so yet, check out Jock MKT. They offer live daily markets for sports that let you buy and shell. Oy vey. We'll fix it. Jock MKT offers live daily markets for sports that let you buy and sell shares of athletes in real time with other users, all for real money. And each share, it has a guaranteed payout at the end of the night. Bid on shares before the games in our IPO phase and trade shares live while the games are happening. It's fantasy, only better. All shares have a guaranteed payout at the end of the night. They're currently live in 36 states with more to come for NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, PGA, and NASCAR. And it gets better. Head over to the Jock MKT app or go to jockmkt.com and deposit with code CASHIN, CASHIN. One word, to receive a 100% deposit match up to $100, and your first market will also be risk-free with losses refunded up to $100. Jock MKT. Sounds like Jock Market, right? Instead of the stock market, that's exactly what it is. Go and get shares in your favorite player, watch them play, make money. JockMKT.com or the Jock MKT app. Promo code CASHIN, all one word, 100% deposit match up to $100. That's going to wrap it up for us on this Wednesday edition of the show. We'll be back with you on Thursday night football. Matt Mayoko will join us from NBC Sports Bay Area as well to talk about the Niners. I'm Jason Page. Thanks for listening to the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. Bye. Okay, cool. Thank you for your help. I appreciate it. Have a great night. I'll talk to you later. All right. To those watching on the video stream, thanks for tuning in tonight. We're back tomorrow night. Like I said, we got a good Thursday show lined up. Thursday night football live betting, post-game reaction from that game, and also kind of looking forward to talking to Matt Mayoko about the 49ers with everything they got going on. He'll join us on the show tomorrow night. I'll see you then, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, SportsMap Radio, the SportsMap Radio app, and all of these streaming platforms. Till then,